Tonight you're going to fall asleep, and somewhere in the first few minutes, right as you start to go under, your whole body might jerk. A sudden kick, a jolt, that falling feeling that yanks you back awake. It happens to most people alive. It has happened to you, probably hundreds of times, and you have never once asked why. Because here's the strange part. Nobody is completely sure, but the leading answer takes you back tens of millions of years to a time when your ancestors slept in trees, and falling was how you died. Let's start with what it actually is. The medical name is a hypnic jerk, or a sleep start. It is not a seizure, and it is not a symptom of anything going wrong. It is one of the most common things a human body does, and almost nobody has ever looked at it. In 1959, the British sleep researcher Ian Oswald published a paper in the journal Brain with a title that says exactly what it is: Sudden Bodily Jerks on Falling Asleep. He wired volunteers to electrodes and watched them cross the border into sleep, recording what their muscles did on the way down. The pattern was consistent. The jerk arrives in the first minutes of sleep and lasts a fraction of a second. Sometimes it's one leg, sometimes it's the whole body at once. And when he woke people to ask what they had experienced, they kept describing the same handful of things: a flash, a stumble, a drop. Falling. Here's what matters before we go any further. This is normal. It happens to the majority of people on Earth. It happens to healthy sleepers, and on its own it means nothing is wrong with you. But the jerk isn't the strange part. The strange part is what your brain does in the half-second afterward. Falling asleep isn't a switch. It's a handover. Two systems run your consciousness, and they work against each other. In 1949, two researchers at Northwestern University, Giuseppe Moruzzi and Horace Magoun, published a study that founded modern sleep science. Deep in the brainstem, in a tangle of neurons called the reticular formation, they found the machinery that keeps you awake. Stimulate it in a sleeping animal, and the animal snaps awake instantly. That system is running in you right now. It's the reason you're conscious for this sentence. The second system does the opposite. As you fall asleep, signals travel down from the brainstem and shut off your muscles, until by the time you reach dreaming sleep, you are almost completely paralyzed. That isn't a flaw. It's what stops you from acting out your dreams. Now put those two together. Falling asleep means one system powers down while the other powers up. And they do not swap cleanly. For a few minutes at the edge, both are partly active. Arousal winding down, paralysis winding up, your motor neurons taking orders from both. A hypnic jerk is what it looks like when a signal gets through the door before it closes. That's the mechanism, and it's well established. It explains the kick. It does not explain the fall, because you didn't fall. There was no staircase, no missed step, no curb, no cliff edge. You were lying still in a bed perfectly safe, and your body never moved more than a few inches. The sensation came second. Think about what your brain actually received. A violent contraction across the whole body, arriving with no explanation, in the dark, in the last seconds before consciousness shuts off. It has a signal and no cause. So it does what it always does. It writes one. In under a second, it builds a scene. A step that wasn't there. Ground that gave way. Then it hands you that scene as something that happened. There's a word for this. Confabulation. Not lying. Not hallucination. Just a brain filling a gap with the most plausible story available, then handing it to you as experience, with no sense that anything was invented. And here's the part that should stop you. Your brain does this constantly. It fills in the blind spot in your vision. It smooths over the gaps every time your eyes flick across a room. It builds reasons for moods that had none. You almost never catch it, because the invention always arrives already marked as reality. The hypnic jerk is the one time it gets caught. The kick is violent enough to throw you back awake, so you're conscious for the fabrication and the correction at once. For half a second you are aware you were falling, and aware there was nothing to fall from. That isn't a glitch in the system. That's the system, briefly visible. So why is the border unstable at all? Why does a body that has been doing this for 300,000 years still fumble the handover? The current theory takes you out of the bedroom entirely. Trees. For tens of millions of years before anything resembling you existed, your ancestors slept above the ground. Not in shelters, in branches. And sleeping in a tree means losing muscle control at height, every night, for your whole life. The stakes were not theoretical. In 1939, the anatomist Adolf Schultz examined the skeletons of wild apes and found a large share carried healed fractures, roughly a third of the gibbons among them. Animals built for the canopy, falling out of it, surviving, and going back up. And in 2015, David Sampson and Charles Nunn at Duke University published an analysis showing that humans sleep shorter and more intensely than any other primate, a shift they tie to our ancestors coming down out of the trees and onto the ground, near fire. Sit with that. Your sleep is shaped by where your ancestors used to sleep. The proposal is that the hypnic jerk is a leftover from that arrangement. A check. As muscle tone drains away, something old sends a pulse through the system and reads what comes back, the way you'd test a rope before putting your weight on it. Now some of you are already objecting. We came out of the trees millions of years ago. Why would that reflex still be in your nervous system? Fair question, and the answer is that evolution doesn't delete things. It stops maintaining them. You still get goosebumps, raising fur you no longer have. Put a finger in a newborn's palm and it grips hard enough to take some of its own weight, a reflex for holding a mother who moved through branches. Your body is full of instructions for a world that stopped existing. Nobody has proven this, and there is no experiment that runs the tape back 40 million years. It's a hypothesis, and honest researchers say so, but it fits. It explains why the reflex fires at exactly the moment you lose control, and why your body still treats the edge of sleep as somewhere worth checking. In a bed, 3 floors up, with the door locked. We came down from the trees. We built floors and beds and rooms with walls. We made the most dangerous hours of the day so safe we stopped thinking about them at all. The reflex never got the message. And we made it worse. Sleep starts fire more often when you are exhausted, when you are running on caffeine, when you are stressed, when your schedule keeps moving. Every one of those is standard now. We built a life that shoves the body across the border harder and faster than it was ever meant to go, and something ancient answers the only way it knows how. Your ancestors slept in trees, and their bodies checked the branch. You sleep on a mattress, and your body checks anyway. Tonight you'll go to bed. Maybe your legs kick. Maybe you feel the ground disappear, and you're awake again for a second, confused, already forgetting it. You'll turn over. You'll fall asleep. And something 40 million years old will have run its check, one more time, on a branch that isn't there.